Student loans.
Yeah, just basically, if you're an employer and you've got some of the student loan, you've got to deduct it at the rate that's specified in the PAYE system. But there are some exceptions. So the first one is you've got a casual agricultural worker using tax code CAE, then no student loan applies. And same for those that are on withholding tax, you don't make the deductions. So it sounds pretty straightforward, but there are a couple of exceptions. If your employee fronts up with a certificate from IRD as a special rate or even an exemption, then you have to do whatever that certificate says. But you must get that certificate from the employee, you just can't take them on their word. You've got to cite it and actually keep a copy on file.
So you photocopy it or whatever you want?
Yeah, so you take a photocopy, put it on file, or if your accountant does your payroll, you send a copy through to them so they can make the adjustments. But you can't just take their word. And if they've got a certificate, it's for a certain period of time. So if you get to the end of that time period and it expires, and they haven't fronted up with a new one, then you go back to the PAYE deduction type for student loan and the standard rates that apply there.
There's a lot to it, isn't there? There's PAYE and withholding tax and things.
Yeah, it's getting probably more and more complicated for people. It used to be where you could sort of do it on a manual basis. So you buy a book from the bookshop and away you go. But now with your KiwiSaver and your student loan and all the different variables that come with that, it's almost a necessity to go computerised.
Are you finding in your practice that people are saying it's all too hard, throwing their arms in the air and saying, you do it please?
Yeah, we are. We're finding that even with someone with one employee, they're ringing us up and saying, hey, look, this is far too complicated for me, what can you do? So we're stepping in and doing the whole thing for them and basically telling them, these are the payments to be made. And in some cases, we actually help them make the payments.
Well, you can do that electronically.
Yeah, and that's the way that we're helping them. So we'll organise that for them with their bank and they just basically get their hours through from the employee, or even the employee rings them through.
Because with that sort of situation, there's a lot of people who come and go. You've got the 3-month trial thing and you've got all sorts of other complications.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you've got your payroll as an accountant, then they can make sure, from day one you've got the employment agreement in place, for example. If you don't have that, then you can't do the 90-day trial period. And then they can keep an eye on the 90 days for you and give you a bit of a warning and a heads up, hey, look, you're up to day 80, have you made a decision on them? Because you don't want to get to day 90 and try and get rid of them, because it's not going to work. Getting
rid of them is another whole subject.
Oh yeah, once you've got them on as an employee and they're past the 90-day trial period, it's actually very hard to get rid of someone. It's almost impossible in some cases. If they're doing their job and doing it pretty much okay, you're almost stuck with them unless you can find a way for them to think for themselves that they want to leave.
Who decides whether it's a good job being done or not?
It comes down to the employer, but if you've
there's
said,
a huge but there.
And if you said, this is roughly what I expect, and you don't have ways of measuring that performance, then you've just got to lump it. So if they're doing what is reasonably expected of them, then they are doing their job.
You see, that's really scary to me. But anyway, and obviously you've got to let your accountant know and who's coming on needs withholding tax. And
yes, exactly. Yeah. So if they are doing that payroll, the moment you do something with someone that involves the PAYE withholding tax, you need to let your accountant know, because they've got to set them up in the payroll and do all the necessary paperwork with the IRD, get the IRD forms off you, because there could be potentially 2 or 3 forms to fill out as well as the employment agreement. So there's a lot of paperwork when you first take someone on.
And then there's contractors who come and go.
Yeah, the contractors are another variable as well, so it depends on whether they're a company or not. If they're not a company, then potentially you're looking at withholding tax, but they may have a certificate of exemption, which you've got to cite, so that gets a complicated area as well.
Do you actually go out and sit around a kitchen table?
Yeah, there's a few where I've gone and actually sat down and said, look, what's going on, and all these things sort of come out of the woodwork, and you start in one area and you end up in a whole different area. It's a good idea.
Because it is frightening.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good idea to get your accountant out, because then they can look around the farm as well and look for other things that might need a bit of attention.
Exactly.